I played a purely physical, no-strings-attached game with the crown princess of Beijing's elite social scene. She liked to keep things wild and free. I was easygoing and liked money. We figured it was a fair trade. Then after one reckless night together, she transferred $10 million straight into my account. I stared at all those zeros on the screen before I could even ask if she had added an extra one by mistake. She said coldly, "I'm getting married next month. Take this money and disappear from my life," hearing that I didn't feel a thing. I almost wanted to laugh. "Congratulations. I figured you already had a husband, kids, and a cozy little life by now." At those words, the woman's expression dropped immediately. Her eyes locked onto me like nails. I was afraid she might change her mind. Take the 10 million back, so in 3 seconds flat, I pulled on my dress shirt and slacks, casually draped my arm around her neck and gave her a quick peck on the cheek. "Thank you, Ms. Gu, you are always so good to me." But Gu Qingqing's eyes were dripping with contempt. She raised her hand and shoved me off. "You can leave now and make sure it's permanent." Right then, I blocked and deleted her right in front of her face, and as I was heading out, I leaned in close to her ear with a taunting grin. "See you around, sugar mama. I've got another girl to meet for late night food tonight. Don't want to keep you." I headed downstairs, threw a leg over my heavyweight motorcycle, and twisted the throttle all the way. Sliced into traffic with a roar and rode off without looking back. But that night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying that ice-cold face of hers on a loop. I told myself it had to be the 10 million messing with my head in the month that followed. I lived like a king. Every day was either pure fun or running my 3 veterinary clinics until the man who was my biological father by name only called and told me to come home for dinner. "It's your sister Meng Yi's birthday today." I had zero desire to step through that door, but I had one thing I needed and I swallowed my pride for it. My dad had an affair and Meng Ruyun destroyed my biological mother. At 10 years old, I was shipped off overseas and left to fend for myself. Now all I wanted was my household registration document so I could cut ties completely and sever myself from this family for good the moment I stepped into the mansion. My stepmom Meng Ruyun started in with her passive-aggressive routine, showing up empty-handed. "Judging by the way you're dressed, you must have found yourself a sugar mama," hearing that I let out a cold smile. "Yup, found myself an older woman. Throws tens of millions around like nothing. Money is not a problem for me anymore." My biological father Liu Wenping exploded on the spot, jabbing a finger at my face and unleashing a torrent of insults. "You worthless piece of trash, do you have any shame at all?" I fired back immediately. "Shame? You never once showed up when my mother was dying. If you actually had any, you wouldn't have done what you did back then." At that, Meng Ruyun was shaking with rage. I was done playing along. "Time to lay it all out. Hand over the household registration book. I want to change my name and take a new one when I die. You don't need to claim my body." At that, my stepmom smiled, a cold and sinister smile. "Cutting ties is not going to be that simple. You want that registration book?" She dropped the fake warmth entirely. "Then either pay back every cent of the child support we spent on you with interest, or marry into a family of disabled people I personally handpicked for you." I looked at this woman who had destroyed my real mother and felt my eyes go cold. "Meng Ruyun, do you really think you have any leverage over me? If you won't give me the document, that's fine. See you in court. And while we're at it, I'll let the whole world see exactly how the mistress drove out the wife." And clawed her way to the top. At that, she shrieked at me to shut up, her face going white with fury. She raised her hand to strike me. I moved fast, caught her wrist, and cracked a clean, loud slap right back across her face. She was stunned silent on the spot. Right then, my half-sister Gu Qingqing had just walked in and caught the whole thing. She yelped and rushed over. Meng Ruyun was just about to blow up again when she caught sight of a figure in the doorway. Her hand froze midair. I turned my head instinctively, and my chest lurched. A woman walked into the living room, backlit and wrapped in a magnetic cold energy. It was her. Our eyes met, and the air froze. The way she looked at me was like she was looking at a hopeless freak. My father Liu Wenping scrambled over, immediately laying on the charm and rushing to greet her. "Just a minor little family spat, nothing to worry about." Then he dropped his voice and hit me with a vicious warning. "This is Qianquan's fiancée. She's an honored guest." Get out those 2 words, his fiancée, went off in my ears like a thunderclap. One minute she was wiring me 10 million, the next she was practically my sister-in-law. Meanwhile, Meng Ruyun was busy pouring gas on the fire, telling everyone that this kid has always been wild and out of control. Don't take it personally. At that, Gu Qingqing gave me a cold once-over. That look of disgust made it clear she thought even glancing at me was beneath her. Right then, Liu Qianquan deliberately sidled up and fake sweetly ruffled my hair. "Hey bro, let me apologize to you on mom's behalf. You can take whatever frustrations you have out on me. Get off me. I can't stand this two-faced snake touching me." I shoved her away hard and she stumbled backward, doing her fragile act, landing perfectly into Gu Qingqing's arms. At that, Gu Qingqing completely lost it, eyes blazing and teeth clenched. "You try touching her one more time and see what happens." Seeing her going full overprotective mode, the unhinged side of me shot straight to the surface. "Fine." I smiled back, cold as ice, and grabbed the water glass off the table, and with one clean splash threw the whole thing directly straight into Liu Qianquan's face. Then I tossed the glass, grabbed my bag, and headed for the door. Barely 2 steps in, though, my arm was suddenly seized in an iron grip. I looked up straight into Gu Qingqing's eyes, burning with fury. I couldn't be bothered to fight it. I just raised an eyebrow and smiled lazily. "What are you gonna do? Drag me back by force?" All the while, Meng Ruyun was still going on behind me, laying into my reputation, saying I smoked, drank, slept around, and did drugs overseas. But Gu Qingqing seemed completely deaf to it. Her hand was still locked around my arm. I was getting tired of being held onto, and was about to shake her off. But then I figured I might as well flip the script. I slowly turned my hand over and let my fingers graze lightly across hers. A slow, deliberate stroke. My eyes aimed straight at her as a challenge. Sure enough, the public flirtation hit exactly as intended. She snatched her hand away with disgust. At that, Liu Qianquan completely snapped and screamed at me, "Get out! Don't you dare use your little seduction games on my fiancé!" At that, I let out a cold laugh, thinking about all those wild and reckless nights this woman and I had shared, then seeing her now nestled in someone else's arms. Rich people really do know how to play games. I had no interest in these clowns. I straightened my spine and walked out without looking back. Got into my Porsche Panamera and floored it home. A 900 square foot apartment that cost under 500,000, nowhere near the Liu family's mansion. But this place was mine. I took a shower. Stomach was a little empty. The food delivery had just arrived at the door. I pulled it open without a second thought, barely a crack. when a sharp wave of cold air pushed in and a figure forced their way inside, shoving me hard onto the couch. What the hell? I was about to start swinging when I looked up into those dark, brooding eyes. There stood Gu Qingqing towering over me, looking like she had come to collect a debt. Liu Lichuan, didn't I warn you? To disappear from my world completely. What were you doing causing a scene at the Liu house? At that, I just laughed out of pure irritation, Ms. Gu. That is my biological father's home. And this right here is my apartment. Who exactly is invading whose world? Go ahead and try me. I'll call the police right now for breaking and entering. At that, her face went darker than a storm cloud, her tall frame pressed down hard, forcing the air out of my lungs. Then she grabbed my jaw in a vice grip. Since you know exactly what my relationship with the Liu family is, you better keep your mouth shut. Especially around Chen Chuan. Say one word and see what happens. I let her grip my jaw and held her gaze without flinching. Is that so? I raised an eyebrow. My smile